The night was dark and quiet. The forest was still and only the sound of crickets filled the air. John walked along the narrow path, holding a small flashlight in his hand. He often came here after work to clear his mind. It was peaceful, away from the noise of the city. But tonight felt different. The air was heavy and the silence felt strange, as if the forest itself was waiting for something. John stopped. He looked up at the sky. For a moment he thought he saw a star moving. At first he smiled to himself, thinking it was just an airplane. But the light did not blink and it did not move like any plane he had ever seen. It slid across the sky slowly, too smooth, too silent. Then it stopped. His heart beat faster. The light grew brighter and brighter until the whole forest glowed. The birds flew away in panic and even the crickets fell silent. The ground shook under his feet and John stumbled back. Something was landing. A ship. It was not like anything from Earth. The body was silver, shining like liquid metal, but it shifted shape as if it were alive. Strange symbols glowed along its sides, symbols that moved like they were breathing. John froze. His mind screamed at him to run, but his legs refused to move. The ship opened. A ramp slid out, and with it came shadows, tall figures walking with heavy steps. They were guards covered in black armor that shone in the moonlight. Their faces were hidden behind helmets with glowing red eyes. One of them raised a weapon, but another stopped him. They looked at John as if measuring him, as if studying something special. Then without a word, they motioned for him to follow. John shook his head. No way. His voice trembled, but the guards took a step forward, their presence heavy, terrifying. Something inside him whispered, "If you run, they will catch you. If you resist, you will die." Slowly, with fear in every step, John walked toward the ramp. The guards surrounded him, guiding him inside. The air inside the ship was cold and filled with a strange hum, like thousands of voices whispering at once. The walls glowed faintly, shifting like liquid, showing strange alien shapes that he could not understand. The path led him to a giant hall, brighter and more open than anything he had seen. And there, at the end of the hall, she sat, the alien queen. She was tall, almost as tall as the guards, but her body was not covered in armor. Her skin shone faintly like silver light, but her face had human-like features. Her long hair moved as if a breeze touched it, even though the air was still. Her eyes were the most shocking, bright and glowing like two small stars. John stopped breathing for a moment. She was beautiful, but not in any human way. She was powerful, terrifying, and yet graceful. She looked at him as if she had known him all his life. The hall was silent. Then her voice echoed, not only in the air, but in his mind. "You are chosen." John's mouth went dry. "What?" The queen stood slowly. Her steps were light, but every movement carried power. She stopped in front of him, towering over him, her eyes never leaving his. "You are human," she said, "a creature of survival. Your kind has faced fire, ice, hunger, war, and still you live. You adapt. You grow stronger. That is why you are here." John shook his head in disbelief. I don't understand. "Why me?" Her lips curved in something between a smile and a command. "Because only you can give my race a future." John stepped back, his heart pounding. The guards did not move, but he knew there was no escape. The queen's voice filled the hall again, calm but heavy like thunder. "My people are fading. We need new blood. Strong blood. Your kind has what we lack." She leaned closer, her glowing eyes burning into his soul. "I want you to stand beside me. Not as a prisoner. Not as a servant. But as my chosen one." John's mind spun. The queen of an alien empire was speaking to him, a simple human lost in the forest. None of this made sense. "You want me?" he whispered. Her voice was soft now, almost gentle. "Yes, you will be mine. You will give life to the future of my world." John's legs trembled. He felt trapped between fear and wonder, between the urge to run and the strange pull of her words. Was this real? Or was he dreaming? The queen raised her hand. A strange light wrapped around him, warm yet heavy like invisible chains. "You cannot turn away, human. The stars themselves brought you here." John's flashlight dropped from his hand and rolled across the floor. The queen's voice lowered to a whisper that echoed inside his mind. "Your life will never be the same again." The hall darkened. The ship's hum grew louder. And in that moment, John knew he had been taken by something far greater than himself. But why him? Why a simple man from Earth? The answer remained hidden, waiting to unfold. John stood frozen in the great hall of the alien ship. The Queen's glowing eyes did not leave him. He wanted to speak, to argue, to shout, but his voice would not come. The cold air pressed on him, and the guards stood like statues, watching every move. Finally, the Queen lifted her hand. The strange light that wrapped around John faded, setting him free. His knees felt weak, but he refused to fall. He looked at her again, still unable to understand. The Queen's voice filled the air, smooth yet sharp, like a blade wrapped in silk. My people are proud. My people are strong. But time is against us. We are dying. Without help, my empire will turn to dust. John swallowed hard. His mind was racing. Why me? You have your own people. Why a human? The Queen tilted her head almost as if she were amused. Because humans carry something we lost long ago. The fire to survive at any cost. She began to walk around him slowly, her silver robes brushing the glowing floor. Her words echoed like music, but also like a warning. Your kind, fragile bodies, weak strength, and yet you rise. You spread across a world full of storms, beasts, hunger, and war. Still, you endure. Still, you adapt. You are the answer my people need. John clenched his fists. He wanted to deny it, to tell her she was wrong. But deep inside, he knew she spoke some truth. Humans were survivors. They had faced endless challenges and kept going. The Queen stopped in front of him again, standing tall. Her glowing eyes locked on his. I do not ask you to fight a war, she said. I do not ask you to carry chains. I ask you to stand beside me as my chosen one, as my husband. Together, we will give birth to a new royal line. Leaders who will be half human, half royal, and stronger than either of us alone. John's heart dropped. He felt the world tilt under him. Husband? He could hardly believe what he was hearing. You're saying, you want to marry me? His voice cracked in disbelief. The Queen's lips curved in a faint smile. Yes, you will marry me. You will father the heirs of the future. That is the path written for you. John shook his head quickly. No, this is crazy. I don't even know you. I don't belong here. You are not just anything, the Queen cut him off sharply. Her voice thundered through the hall, shaking his chest. The stars chose you. Do you think this is an accident? Do you think you walked into this ship by chance? John stepped back, but the Queen followed, her glowing aura pressing against him. You are human. That alone makes you rare. That alone makes you valuable. Her tone softened again, almost like a whisper meant only for him. And that alone makes you mine. For a moment, silence filled the hall. John's thoughts were a storm. He thought of his home, his family, his ordinary life. All of it felt far away, like a fading dream. And now before him stood an alien queen asking him to shape the future of her empire. He felt trapped between two worlds, his old life and this impossible destiny. But what if I refuse? John finally asked, his voice trembling. The Queen studied him carefully. Her glowing eyes narrowed, and the guards behind her shifted slightly as if waiting for her command. You will not refuse, she said calmly, because deep inside you know what you are. A survivor, a fighter, a man who was born for more than a quiet life on Earth. John tried to breathe, but the air felt heavy. He wanted to deny her, but her words cut into him, sharper than any blade. Was she right? Was he really meant for something greater? The Queen raised her hand, and the glowing symbols on the walls changed. They showed visions of her world, giant towers stretching into the sky, oceans glowing with strange light, alien cities filled with thousands of her people. But he also saw their weakness. Their bodies looked thin, their faces pale, their movements slow. They are my people, the Queen said. They are proud. But they are fading. They cannot carry the future. Only you can. John felt a strange pull as he looked at the images. The cities were beautiful but broken. The people looked noble but fragile. He saw in their eyes the same thing he had seen in the Queen's voice, desperation. You want me to save them? He whispered. The Queen stepped closer, her glowing presence overwhelming. Yes, together we will give them hope. Together we will give them strength. John's heart raced. He wanted to scream, to argue, but instead he stood there silent. The Queen's power, her beauty, her strange voice, it all wrapped around him like a net. She leaned close, her words soft but unstoppable. Say yes, John of Earth, say yes, and you will stand as king beside me. Say yes, and the stars will remember your name. John closed his eyes. His thoughts clashed, fear, anger, confusion. He wanted to say no, But he also wanted to know what would happen if he said yes. The Queen waited, silent, her glowing eyes watching him, burning into his soul. John opened his mouth. The word trembled on his lips, but before he could speak, the ship shook with a sudden roar. The ground trembled, the lights flickered, and the guards snapped to attention. Something was happening. Something outside. The Queen turned sharply, her glowing eyes narrowing in anger. For the first time, John saw fear flash across her face. The hall shook again. The Queen whispered more to herself than to him, "They are here." And the silence shattered. The ship shook as if struck by an invisible hand. Lights flickered along the walls, and the guards raised their weapons, ready for an unseen enemy. John staggered, grabbing the edge of a glowing pillar to keep his balance. His heart pounded. For a brief moment, he forgot the Queen's offer, forgot the impossible marriage and the heavy words. Now fear took over. The Queen's glowing eyes narrowed as she stared at the ceiling. Her voice dropped low, but it still carried power. "They are early," she whispered. John turned toward her, confusion spreading across his face. Who's here?" The Queen looked at him, her expression unreadable. "Those who do not wish to see a human rise. Those who fear change." Before John could ask more, the walls of the ship shifted and the images of the alien city faded. The glowing floor pulsed under his feet, and suddenly, he felt the ship rising into the air. The tremors slowed, but the danger did not pass. The Queen raised her hand and the guards lowered their weapons again, standing in complete silence. She looked back at John. "This is the truth of your choice. If you stay with me, you will be hunted. If you leave, you will still never be safe. The moment you stepped into this ship, your fate was sealed." John shook his head, his voice cracking. "I didn't choose this. You took me. I didn't ask to be here." The Queen studied him carefully. For the first time, there was no smile on her lips, no softness in her voice. "And yet you are here." The hall fell silent again. John's thoughts spun like a storm. His life on Earth felt like a dream now. A warm bed, simple food, the sound of cars outside his window. It had been small, maybe even dull. But it was his. He wanted to cling to it, but the Queen's words cut deep. Your fate was sealed. John felt torn in two. One side of him screamed to run, to fight, to resist. The other whispered something strange. Curiosity, a dark pull toward this alien queen and her impossible offer. He looked at her again, her glowing skin, her eyes like burning stars. She was not just powerful. She was desperate. He remembered the faces of her people in those glowing visions. Weak, fading, shadows of what they once were. "You really believe I can save you?" he asked quietly. The Queen stepped closer. Her voice was softer now, almost human. "I do not believe." "I know." John's chest tightened. He thought of his family. Would they ever know what happened to him? Would they think he was dead? He thought of Earth, so small compared to the vast empire she showed him. Was he really meant to return? To live an ordinary life, pretending none of this had happened? But then another thought burned in his mind. If I stay, I may never see home again. The weight of that truth crushed him. He turned away from the Queen, pacing across the glowing floor. "I'm not a hero. I'm not a leader. I'm just me, a man who got lost in the woods. You picked the wrong person." The Queen watched him, her face calm but her eyes sharp. "You think too little of yourself. Humans always do. That is why you are strong. You do not see your own power until it is tested." Her words sank into him like arrows. John stopped walking, his fists clenched. He hated that her voice made sense. He hated that a part of him believed her. He turned back, his voice trembling. "And if I say no, what happens then?" The Queen did not move. For a long moment she was silent. Then she said slowly, "If you say no, you will still be hunted. My enemies will not let you live. They fear what you might become even if you remain alone." John's stomach dropped. "So I'm trapped no matter what I do." The Queen stepped closer, her silver robes whispering against the floor. She lowered her voice. "You are not trapped. You are chosen." There was a difference. John's chest burned. He could feel the walls of his old life breaking. He wanted to scream, to break free of this cage of destiny, but another part of him whispered that maybe, just maybe, this was bigger than him. For the first time, John dared to look directly into her glowing eyes without fear. "And if I accept?" "If I say yes, what then?" The Queen's lips curved slightly. Then you will be more than human. You will be consort to a queen, father of the heirs, protector of two worlds. You will not only survive, you will rule. Her words echoed through the hall, filling the silence with heavy meaning. John's heart raced, a simple man from Earth now standing on the edge of becoming something impossible. He wanted to laugh, to cry, to deny, but he could not. Not anymore. Before he could answer, the ship jolted again, throwing him to the floor. The guards shouted in their strange language, and lights flashed along the walls. This time the queen's face hardened with anger. "They attack even now," she hissed. Her eyes turned back to John, burning brighter. "Decide quickly, human. Stand with me or be crushed with them." John pushed himself up, his body shaking. He looked at her, at the guards, at the strange glowing walls. His mind screamed with fear and doubt. But deep inside, something stirred. Something human. Something that refused to break. And the choice lay heavy in his hands. The alien ship moved like a living thing, its walls shifting with light as it rose higher above the forest. John could no longer see the world he knew. Earth was gone, hidden under clouds. His heart sank, but there was no time to grieve. The queen stood tall, her glowing eyes sharp. "If you are to stand beside me, human, my people must see your worth." "They will not bow to weakness," John frowned. "I told you I'm not a warrior." The queen's lips curved faintly. "You are human. That is enough. But you must prove it." Before John could answer, the floor beneath them opened like a mouth. A platform rose, carrying him, the queen, and her guards into another chamber. This place was darker, the walls alive with strange symbols that pulsed like beating hearts. At the center of the chamber stood a circle marked with glowing lines. Around it were alien figures, taller than humans, dressed in silver armor. Their faces were uncovered, sharp with ridged skin and glowing eyes like embers. They watched John with cold stares, whispering in their strange language. The queen raised her hand, silencing them. "This human is chosen, but he must face the trial of worth. If he fails, he is not mine." A low murmur spread through the chamber. John's stomach twisted. "Trial? What kind of trial?" he asked. The queen turned to him. "One that will reveal your true nature, not strength of body alone, but of spirit." Before he could protest, two armored warriors stepped forward. One carried a staff that crackled with blue energy. The other held twin blades, thin and curved. John's eyes widened. "Wait, you want me to fight them? That's insane. I'll be dead in seconds." The queen's voice was calm but firm. "No, you will live. Because humans adapt. Show them why you were chosen." The guards pushed him gently but firmly into the glowing circle. His pulse raced. His hand shook. He had never even been in a real fight. Not beyond schoolyard shoves years ago. Now he was expected to fight alien warriors. The first warrior stepped forward, spinning the staff in his hands. The sound of crackling energy filled the chamber. John's body screamed at him to run, but there was nowhere to go. The circle burned like fire at its edges, an invisible wall keeping him inside. The warrior lunged. John barely dodged, the staff slamming into the ground where he had stood. Sparks exploded, and the shockwave threw him back. He hit the floor hard, coughing. The crowd hissed in disapproval. The queen's voice rang out. "Stand, human. Use what you are, think, adapt." John forced himself up, sweat dripping from his forehead. His mind raced. He couldn't fight like them. He had no weapons, no training. But maybe he didn't need to. The warrior charged again, swinging the staff. John dropped low, rolling under the strike. He grabbed a broken shard of glowing crystal from the floor and threw it. The shard hit the warrior's mask, distracting him. John lunged forward and kicked the warrior's leg. The alien stumbled. The crowd gasped. John blinked in shock. It worked. The warrior roared, swinging wildly. John ducked again, this time grabbing the staff as it came down. The energy burned his hands, but he held on, twisting with all his strength. To his surprise, the alien lost grip. The staff slid free, buzzing in John's hands. He didn't know how it worked, but instinct screamed, "Try." He slammed the end of the staff against the floor. A surge of blue light shot out, knocking the warrior backward. The alien hit the ground with a heavy thud, groaning. The chamber fell silent. John stood, panting, the staff shaking in his hands. He could hardly believe it. He had survived. He had won, but it wasn't over. The second warrior stepped forward, blades gleaming. His eyes burned with fury. John cursed under his breath. Of course. This one was faster, deadlier. The first strike came like lightning. John barely raised the staff in time. Sparks flew as blade met energy. The vibration numbed his arms. The warrior pressed harder, driving him back. John stumbled, his back hitting the glowing barrier. Panic surged. His mind screamed for escape. Then he remembered the Queen's words. Think. Adapt. He let go. The warrior stumbled forward, unbalanced. John twisted, slamming the staff sideways into his ribs. The alien growled, but did not fall. He spun, blade cutting across John's arm. Pain seared through him. Blood ran down his sleeve. John gasped, but instead of freezing, he moved faster. Pain gave him focus. He ducked low, sweeping the staff against the alien's legs. The warrior fell, hitting the floor with a heavy crash. Without thinking, John pressed the staff to the ground again. Energy burst out, crackling across the floor, knocking the warrior flat on his back. The blades clattered away. The chamber erupted in gasps and shouts. John stood over the fallen warrior, chest heaving, blood dripping from his arm. He had won again. The Queen stepped forward, her glowing eyes fixed on him. Her voice filled the chamber. You see? He is not weak. He is human. And that makes him stronger than you can imagine. The crowd bowed their heads, some with respect, others with unease. John dropped the staff, his hands trembling. He felt both proud and terrified. He had survived, but at what cost? His arm burned, his body ached, and his mind was still spinning. The Queen moved closer, placing her hand on his shoulder. Her touch was warm, strange, powerful. You have passed the first test, she said softly. Now my people will see you not as prey, but as worthy. John looked at her, his breath shaky. If this is only the first test, what comes next? The Queen's lips curved in that mysterious half-smile again. Next, you become mine. And somewhere in the shadows of the chamber, unseen by both of them, a figure watched, eyes burning with hatred. A whisper carried through the air. The human must not live. The chamber still buzzed with whispers after John's victory. The guards carried away the fallen warriors, and the glowing circle faded back into the floor. John stood outside it, his chest rising and falling like a man who had run a long race. His arm burned where the blade had cut him, and blood still dripped down his sleeve. The Queen looked at him with pride. Her glowing eyes softened as she spoke. You have proven yourself. They cannot deny it now. You are worthy. But not everyone in the chamber agreed. Among the crowd, alien generals stood with hard faces, their ridged skin glistening in the pale light. They wore no smiles. Their eyes burned with anger, not respect. When the Queen raised her hand to silence the crowd, the generals bowed. Yet their whispers spread like poison. A human cannot lead us. He is weak. He bleeds too easily. This choice will destroy us all. John felt their stares stabbing into his back. He had survived the trial, but he knew he had not won their trust. That night, the ship docked in the heart of the alien capital. From the window of his chamber, John saw the city stretched across the horizon. Towers of living metal reached into the sky. Glowing rivers cut through the streets, and bridges hung in the air like silver threads. It was breathtaking, yet the people who walked below seemed fragile, shadows of the proud warriors they had once been. The Queen entered his chamber, her robes flowing behind her. She studied his bandaged arm and frowned. You carry pain well. John gave a bitter smile. Not much choice, is there? She moved closer, her voice soft. Soon, there will be a wedding. My people will see you as mine. With time, they will see you as their king. John stared at her. The idea still felt unreal. A king, me? He wanted to laugh, but the weight of her words crushed him. Before he could reply, the Queen turned, her voice colder. But beware, John of Earth, not all will welcome you. Some wish you dead before the vows are spoken. The word sent a chill through him. You're saying, they'll try to kill me? The Queen's glowing eyes locked on his. They already plan it. Whispers in the dark far from the royal chamber, deep within the shadows of the capital, the generals gathered. They sat around a long table of black stone, their armor clinking as they leaned forward. The Queen is blinded, one growled. His voice was like grinding metal. She thinks this human will save us. Another slammed his fist onto the table. He is nothing but flesh and fear. I saw him bleed. I saw him stumble. Is this the future of our empire? A third general leaned back, his eyes glowing with hate. The people may cheer for him now, but their cheers will fade. And when they see him as weak, they will lose faith in the Queen. That cannot be allowed. The room fell silent. Then the oldest general spoke, his voice low but sharp. Then the human must die. Quietly before the wedding. If he falls, the queen will be forced to choose one of us to father the line. Order will be restored, they all nodded. Plans were made. A shadow was sent. The attempt back in his chamber, John tried to sleep, but the bed felt like stone beneath him. His mind twisted with thoughts of earth, of home, of freedom. He had survived a trial, but at what cost? He was now trapped in a world that wanted him dead. A faint sound broke the silence. John opened his eyes. The chamber was dark, lit only by the pale glow of alien lights on the walls. But in the corner a shadow moved. His breath caught. The figure stepped forward. An assassin dressed in black, eyes glowing red, a blade in hand. The weapon shimmered, humming with deadly energy. John scrambled out of bed. "Guards!" he shouted, but his voice echoed into silence. No one came. The assassin lunged. John dodged, barely missing the strike, the blade slicing through the edge of his blanket. Sparks hissed where the weapon touched the floor. Adrenaline flooded his veins. He grabbed a metal stand from the corner of the room and swung it wildly. The assassin blocked with ease, pushing him back. John hit the wall, his chest pounding. The assassin raised the blade. Before it could strike, the doors burst open. The queen stepped inside, her eyes burning like fire. With one motion of her hand, a wave of light shot across the room, slamming into the assassin. The figure flew backward, crashing into the wall. The queen's voice thundered, shaking the chamber. "You dare touch what is mine?" The assassin tried to rise, but the queen's power crushed him down. Guards stormed the room, dragging the struggling figure away. John stood frozen, his breath ragged. His hands shook as he dropped the broken metal stand. The queen moved to him, her voice calmer now. "Do you see, human? They will stop at nothing. They fear you because they know you are already changing the future." John stared at her, fear and anger mixing inside him. "I didn't ask for this." "I didn't ask to be hunted." The queen leaned closer, her glowing eyes soft but unyielding. "No one asked for destiny. It comes whether you want it or not. The question is, will you survive it?" The silent oath that night, John stood again at the window, staring at the alien city below. His cut arm throbbed, his body still shaking from the attack. He thought of home, of Earth's sky, of the simple life he once lived, but he also thought of the trial he had won. He thought of the assassin who had failed. He thought of the queen's words. He was afraid. But beneath the fear, something else grew, something sharp, something stubborn. A silent oath formed inside him. "If they want me dead, I will not make it easy." The city lights glowed like stars below. The queen's people might hate him, the generals might plot against him, but he was still alive. And he was human. For the first time, John wondered if maybe, just maybe, the queen was right. The alien capital had never seen such light. Twin moons hung high in the sky, their silver glow falling across towers of living metal. The streets below burned with lanterns glowing in colors John had no name for. Blue fire, green sparks, rivers of gold. Music hummed through the air, strange and deep, like the heartbeat of the planet itself. This was the night of the queen's wedding. John stood in a chamber carved from crystal, his reflection staring back at him from walls that glowed faintly. He wore robes woven with silver threads that shifted with every movement, alive like liquid light. The weight of it pressed on his shoulders, but not as heavily as the truth pressing inside him. He whispered to himself, "A human, marrying an alien queen. If my family could see me now." The door opened. A guard entered, bowing. "It is time," John followed, his heart racing. The halls were filled with alien nobles, tall and sharp-featured, their glowing eyes watching him with suspicion. Some bowed slightly, but most looked at him with cold disdain. He could almost hear their thoughts, "Not one of us. Not worthy." But the queen was waiting. The ceremony, the great square at the heart of the capital, had been transformed. Thousands of citizens filled the space, their pale faces turned toward the glowing platform at its center. Two massive spires bent inward above it, forming an arch that pulsed with living light. At the center of the platform stood the queen. She wore a crown of crystal that caught the twin moon's light and scattered it in 1,000 colors. Her robes flowed like rivers of silver, and her glowing eyes burned brighter than ever before. When John stepped onto the platform, the crowd gasped. The queen's gaze met his. For a moment the noise faded, and the world shrank until there was only the two of them. "You came," she said softly. John forced a shaky smile. Not like I had much of a choice. Her lips curved faintly, almost human. Perhaps. But you are here, the ceremony began. The high speaker, an elder with skin like stone and eyes like fire, raised his staff. His voice boomed across the city. Tonight, under the gaze of the twin moons, our queen binds her life to another. To strengthen our line. To save our people. To shape the future of the empire. Whispers ran through the crowd. Some voices cheered. Others hissed in disapproval. The high speaker turned to John. Do you, human of Earth, take our queen as your bond, to stand beside her in strength and in struggle, in blood and in legacy? John swallowed hard. His mind screamed with doubt. But when he looked at the queen, he saw no fear in her glowing eyes, only certainty. Against all reason, his voice rose steady. I do. The queen turned, her voice ringing like music across the square. I do. The arch above them burst with light, covering the platform in a glowing wave. The crowd gasped, shielding their eyes. When the light faded, the queen and John stood together, bound by the energy that wrapped around their hands like chains of fire. The wedding was complete, a king in the shadows. The crowd roared. Some cheered, others cursed, but none could deny what had happened. The queen had chosen a human. A new royal line had begun. John felt the weight of thousands of eyes on him. He was no longer just John, he was consort to a queen. He was father of a future not yet born. The queen leaned close, her words for him alone. Now they cannot deny you. You are mine, and with me you are theirs. But even as she spoke, John noticed movement at the edge of the crowd. Generals in dark armor whispered together, their eyes sharp as blades. He felt their hatred like a storm waiting to break. The banquet that night, the palace was alive with celebration. Alien music echoed through vast halls, and tables were covered with food that shimmered like jewels. Nobles raised glasses filled with glowing liquid, toasting the queen and her new consort. John tried to eat, but his nerves twisted his stomach. He felt eyes on him from every corner, some filled with wonder, others with venom. The queen raised her glass, her voice carrying across the hall. Tonight we begin a new age. Together, human and royal, we will create a future stronger than the past. Let the stars bear witness. The hall erupted in cheers, but beneath the sound, John caught another noise, whispers sharp and angry. His gaze shifted, and for a moment he saw a blade hidden under a noble's robe. Then it vanished, his skin crawled. Danger was near. The warning later, as the night grew older, John stepped onto a balcony overlooking the glowing city. The queen joined him, her robes trailing softly behind her. For once her voice was quiet. You fear them, she said simply. John exhaled. Shouldn't I? Half of them want me dead. The queen looked out at the city. Yes, they fear change. They fear you. But that fear will fade. When they see what we create, when they see the strength of our union, they will bow. John turned to her. And if they don't? Her glowing eyes shifted back to him, sharp and cold. Then they will burn. John felt a chill run down his spine. He wanted to argue, but he stayed silent. Deep inside, he knew the rebellion was real, and it was only a matter of time before it struck again. As the twin moons drifted across the sky, John stood beside the queen, the city glowing below them. For the world, it was a night of celebration. For him, it was the start of something far more dangerous. He had survived the trial. He had survived an assassin. And now he was married to a queen. But in the shadows of the palace, enemies sharpened their blades, and the real battle had only just begun. The night after the wedding should have been filled with peace. But peace never came. The alien capital lay under the twin moons, its towers glowing like rivers of silver. Inside the palace, silence stretched across the long halls. John lay awake in his chamber, staring at the ceiling, his thoughts heavy. He was no longer just a man from Earth. He was now the consort of an alien queen. A king in all but name, and yet he felt the weight of eyes watching him even in the dark. The rebellion ignites. It began with a whisper. A scream cut through the palace air, followed by the clash of steel. John bolted upright as the walls trembled. Outside, alarms rang and guards shouted in the alien tongue. He rushed to the balcony and froze. The city was burning. Flames lit the streets as soldiers in black armor stormed the gates. The queen's banners were torn down, replaced by the sigil of the generals. Ships hovered above the city, raining fire. John's heart pounded. The rebellion had begun. The doors to his chamber burst open. The queen entered, her eyes blazing. Behind her came loyal guards, weapons raised. "They strike tonight," she said, her voice like thunder. "The generals will not wait for dawn." John felt fear crawl up his spine. "They're here for me, aren't they?" "They are here for us," the queen corrected. "You are my bond now. They cannot destroy me without destroying you." Her words sank into him. He was no longer just a target. He was part of her. The battle in the palace. The palace shook as explosions rocked the walls. John followed the queen through long halls lit by firelight. Loyal guards clashed with rebels at every corner. The sound of blades striking, the cries of the wounded. It was chaos. John grabbed a fallen weapon, a short alien blade that shimmered with light. He had no training, but survival pushed him forward. The first rebel leapt from the shadows, blade raised. Instinct drove John to block. Sparks burst as steel met steel. He stumbled but twisted, slashing wildly. By luck, or maybe human instinct, his blade cut across the rebel's arm. The alien fell back, howling. John's hands shook. His heart roared. He had survived again. The queen fought beside him, moving like fire itself. Her strikes were graceful but deadly, her glowing eyes cutting through the smoke. Each rebel who faced her fell within seconds. Together they pushed through the halls step by step, but the rebels were many. Too many. The confrontation at the heart of the palace in the throne chamber, the rebellion leaders awaited. The generals stood tall in their black armor, their eyes burning with hatred. Behind them, rows of rebels filled the room. The oldest general stepped forward, his voice booming. "You have betrayed us, Queen. You brought a human into our bloodline. You would end us with this weakness." The queen raised her chin, her voice sharp. "This human is no weakness. He is strength." The general's eyes turned to John. "Then let him prove it." With a wave of his hand, the rebels surged forward. The battle was chaos. John swung his blade wildly, ducking and dodging, every move born of desperation. He was cut, bruised, and thrown to the ground, but he always rose again. He adapted. He survived. The generals fought the queen, their strikes shaking the hall. Her power was great, but even she struggled against their numbers. John saw her stumble under a heavy blow. Without thinking, he leapt between her and the enemy, blocking a strike meant for her. Pain tore across his arm, but he did not fall. The general laughed. "See, weak, fragile." John's eyes burned with rage. "Maybe, but I'm human. And humans don't quit." With a roar, he drove forward, slamming his blade into the general's chest. The alien staggered, shock flashing in his glowing eyes before he collapsed. The hall fell silent for a heartbeat. Then the tide turned. Loyal guards pushed back the rebels. One by one, the generals fell. The rebellion broke like glass. The aftermath. When the last enemy fell, the throne chamber was filled with silence. Smoke hung in the air, broken only by the sound of heavy breathing. The queen stood tall, her crown cracked, her robes torn, but her eyes still blazing. She looked at John, who leaned on his blade, bleeding but alive. She placed her hand on his shoulder. Her voice was softer now. "You stood beside me. You fought for me. For us." John shook his head, exhausted. "I didn't fight like a warrior. I fought because I wanted to live." Her lips curved in a faint smile. "And that is why you are stronger than them. You fight not for pride but for survival. That is what my people have forgotten. That is what you will teach them." Father of a new empire, days later, the fires were gone. The rebels were defeated. The city rebuilt under the queen's banner. John stood on the palace balcony, looking out at the alien world that was now his. The people gathered below, their glowing eyes turned toward him, not with hate this time, but with awe. The queen stood beside him, her hand resting in his. Her voice rang across the city. "Tonight our empire lives. Tonight we rise again. And it begins with him, John of Earth, my consort. The father of the future." The crowd roared. John's heart beat heavy in his chest. He looked at the sky, at the twin moons, at the endless stars beyond. He thought of Earth, of home, of the man he once was. That man was gone, now he was more, he was human. He was survivor, he was father of a new empire. And the stars would never forget his name.